strength when I am weak. You are the treasure that I seek. You are my all in all.
Central Church, living the gospel of Jesus Christ, being God's love with our neighbors in all places.
God calls us to feed the hungry. We do that.
God tells us to find clothes for people who don't have any.
We do that. God calls us to care about our community.
And we do that.
Central Church, across from the cider mill in Endicott, serving around the world.
Good morning, Central Church. How are you this fine spring day? Apparently we had March yesterday. Maybe it'll be April today. May tomorrow, and then June for the rest of this. It is a good and glorious thing to be together in worship. It is a good and glorious thing to be the community of faith together in prayer and song, music and story, seeking the presence of God, growing in our spiritual journeys. May the Holy Spirit be with us. May the Holy Spirit fill us. And this time together, may the Holy Spirit fill this place, that our worship may be joyful and peaceful.
And good morning from me as well. Welcome to our television audience. Know that we consider you part of the congregation here at Central, over on Nanticoke Avenue in the Union District of Endicott. We'd love to have you join us anytime. Know that we're always here for you. And if you're a visitor, we have some information packets near the exits of the sanctuary. For you, life at Central here is very diverse and full, as you'll well see if you come around here anytime during the week. So please pick those up, and we're really glad that you're here and hope to see you many times in the future. And if you're on the center aisles, those brownish colored books are called friendship pads. Please sign into those, pass them down to the outside aisle and back, and you'll understand a little bit better who's in the pew with you this morning. But also let us know if there's anything we can do to help you in your spiritual journey. A few announcements to highlight. Again, I encourage you to look through your worship order for all announcements. First of all, there was a new member gathering this morning, a good crowd there, so Michelle's very pleased with a few people are really expressing a strong interest in joining here at Central, so we're glad about that. Also, the CUMC players are organizing for their next production. So there was a meeting this morning, but if you're still interested in that, see Marie. She's always got a nice hat on, so you can tell. So just see Marie, and she'll gladly get you involved somehow in that event. Tonight at 7 o'clock is the New Beginnings Contemporary Service, a great event. It's 7 o'clock down in Fellowship Hall. Tonight they're featuring a hymn sing, so please come out for that event. Great time is had by all when you go to that. And this Friday is 6 o'clock down in Fellowship Hall. Who's the men in here? Everyone the men? Men who like to eat? I weighed myself yesterday. I'm as heavy as I've ever been in my life, so I don't know if I should eat anything, but there's a meal presented for the Methodist men. This will be our second meeting. It's a great group. We had about 20 plus people there last time, so we're looking to keep growing that. So please sign up, though, so that we can prepare the right amount of food. There's a sign up in the Welcome Center to my left, your right, as you exit the sanctuary. And flood buckets. This is a project that's gone over really well here at Central. We're kind of a central receiving area for flood buckets. Donations are requested. There's information and a bucket right outside the office. Over again to my left, your right. Please pick up a sticky if you would and help us out with some donations. With that, join me in the call to worship, please. Come home, home to the embrace of God.
We are walking the lenten path from past lives to future possibilities. We are walking from all our memories to a new day. We are walking from fear to hope.
Come home, taste the goodness of God. Feel the grace of God as you experience God's love. Come home today. Now is the time. Now is the place. Shall we pray? Holy One, we bear your holiness. You planted your love deep within us. You promise to be with us always. How hesitant we have been to believe it. How timid our voice has been. How we have doubted. We have feared the unknown more than we have trusted your promises. We have narrowed the good news to the range of our own lives and forgotten to look outward to see you in all times and places and persons. Help us to seek you. Fill us with your Spirit and awaken us to your possibilities. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Our opening hymn is number 100 in the red hymnal, God whose love is reigning o'er us. Standing as we sing, please. Won't you greet those about you with the love and peace of Christ?
I'd like to invite the children to come forward. Hey, Daniel. Hello. Hello, Charlotte. Hello. Hi, Carson. Oh, I don't call everybody by name, should I? How is everybody today? Good? Good, good, good. Who has ever gone on a trip before? Who has ever taken a trip somewhere?
I go to the city.
You go to the city. Where have you gone before? Where have you gone on a trip? Cape Cod. Where have you gone on a trip? Myrtle Beach. Wow. Mm-hmm.
We went on Knoebels.
You went to Knoebels. Okay.
I went to Syracuse once.
You went to Syracuse once. Okay. So what? Where? Okay. So do you just like walk out your door and go on a trip? Or do you have to get ready? You have to get ready. What do you have to do to go on a trip? Mm-hmm.
You have to pack your bag.
You have to pack a bag.
Everything you have for the trip you're going on.
You have to make sure you have everything you need for your trip, right?
Yes, and don't forget, you're gonna fly on a plane.
Ooh. And you might fly on a plane, so you need to be able to go on a plane. Don't forget your suitcase or backpack or whatever your things are in. What else do you need to do? Oh, and your toothbrush. That's the most, right? Right? You have to have your toothbrush when you go on a trip. What else do you need to go on a trip? Do you need what? You need to pack stuff up. Sometimes you need a map, don't you? So you know where to go? I mean, it's either on paper, it's on a phone or something like that. You have a map, right? So you know to turn left or right or something, don't you? What? Don't forget your clothes, right? You don't want to go on a trip and have no clothes, do you?
Well, you will be naked.
Well, you would be, and that would be silly.
And it's really important. If you're going on a plane, you have to have a plane seat, otherwise you can't.
All right, you have to have tickets, right?
And then if you don't have any clothes, you'll be cold.
Yes, you'll be cold, too, if you don't have any clothes.
It's in
Let's
winter.
move on.
I know one of the important stuff.
Okay.
Don't forget your underwear.
It's spring, can you tell? Spring is sprung. Okay, so all that stuff to get ready to go on a trip, right? Do you like to take people with you when you go somewhere? Yes, you do. Well, I want to you want your mom and dad to come with you? You want important people to go with you, don't you, huh? What, Daniel? He's working on this. Yeah, I'll come back to you in a second, okay? Okay? All right, hold that thought. So we like to take the people we love with us, don't we? And we like to take, clothes and stuff with us. That's good, right?
You have to take your prayers and Jesus.
You have to take your prayers in Jesus. Always the right answer at children's time. But I want to tell you something. I want to tell you that church, and this might be hard to understand, but church is like taking a trip too. Does that make sense? Do you know that all these people here, grown-ups and small people and everybody in between, old people and young people and everyone in between, are on a trip to God. Does that make sense? We're all trying to find God. Does that make sense? And sometimes there's a map. Sometimes, what do you think our map might be?
The star.
The Star of Bethlehem. Okay, that's good. How about the Bible's kind of a map for us, isn't it? Right? It tells us about Jesus. What, Ayana? What? What?
And you can bring like one of your.
Okay. So you bring your map with you, which is the Bible we use as a map sometimes, but we also use our prayers, right? And our songs to help us reach God. What, honey?
What do you guys look like? You see your grandpa, Papa or Grandpa, you can hug them.
Well, yes, you can hug people who go with you on your trip. And so let's get back. That all these people here, including you, are looking for God, right? We want to meet God and know God, don't we? And that's kind of a trip. And sometimes we have to get ready to do that, don't we? So we're in the season. Do you remember last week when I told you what season we're in church?
Oh, yeah.
Daniel, do you remember? Do you remember the name? Lent. Do you remember that? Lent. For the next few weeks, we're in a season called Lent. Can you say Lent? No, Lent. And that is a time of taking a journey or a trip to meet God and to grow closer to God. And we get ready for it by singing together and praying and reading the Bible. God is everywhere, but sometimes we got to find God because we wander away and we don't look for God. And so Lent is a time for looking for God again. Because God's already here. We just need to wake up and see God. Yeah.
That doesn't really make sense.
I know. Lots of people have spent a lot of years trying to figure that out. I haven't yet either. It doesn't always make sense. Because if God is already here, why do we have to look for God, right? Because sometimes we ignore God. Sometimes we don't pay attention to God. And so Lent is the time that we journey back. We take a trip back to paying attention. Is that all good? Does that sound like a trip you want to be on? You don't have to take, clothes and toothbrushes for that trip. You have to take your heart. Okay? We are having fun up here. So we are going to have a little prayer, right, before we go sit down? Okay? Well, you're going to go have fun, aren't you? So can we have a prayer together? Can we repeat after me? Dear God, we thank you for the journey to see you. Help us pack our hearts to give to you. Thank you for being with us. Amen. Thanks for coming up. Oh, you're silly. Bye. Thanks for coming up.
Our New Testament lesson is taken from the book of Luke, chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. You can find it in the Pew Bible on page 77 in the New Testament. At that very hour, some Pharisees came and said to him, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me. Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you, and I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" The word of the Lord.
Part of being a church is the give back. Visitors know that it's not expected of you, but this offering goes to support many things that Central does here in our community, but also around the world at large. Ushers, won't you come forward to receive our gifts? All things come from you, O God. Abilities. We give thanks for those here that are willing to share that, both in their service as well as what's in their pockets. We thank you, Lord, for everything that you do for us. Help us always to be mindful of helping the sick, at aiding the lonely, and also, Lord, to be mindful to be better Christians as you have taught us every day of our lives. This we ask in your Son's name. Amen. Our next song is number 124. Please note the tune is on 150. The name of the song is Seek the Lord, Standing as We Sing. You may be seated. Part of being a Christian is to think and pray for others. As we enter a time of prayer, we want to thank our bassoonists this morning for their talents and sharing that with us. Thank you. Also, if you would look in your worship order this morning, you'll find those wanting prayers. In the hospital or recovering, Esther Zimmerman is home at this point, as is Dick Freer. Part of our service this morning, as every week, we remember a portion of our congregation. Those this week we remember are Ella Mae Albeck, Linda Apgar, Leslie Briggs, Phyllis Crump, Art and Sandra Felton, Connie Hostow, Jill Jordan, Earl Madison, Norma and Ken Poinier, Earl Spar, and Tracy White. Please remember these folks in your prayers this week. And our church family and friends, Kathy King, Sarah Rogers and her family, Phyllis Cousins, Sandy Watts, Peg Napish, Rosemary DeSalvo, Gabriella Blaubush, Janet Milbury, and of course, as always, our homebound members. And Central does extend its sympathy again to the friends and family of Betty Lambert. Betty passed away a little over a week ago. Her service was this past Wednesday here at Central. With that, Pastor Michelle, will you lead us in prayer?
Before we begin, how have you seen God at work this week in your world, in your life? I will say that I've seen the hand of God, the touch of God, the love of God in all the care and the texts and emails and sweet prayers that you all have offered on my behalf this week. Surgery was uneventful, and apparently I'm recovering at the right pace, even though it's way too slow for me. other places where you have seen God at work. Wow.
I got to see my 2 great-grandsons.
Helen got to see 2 great-grandsons this week.
Good trip down, a good trip back.
Safely there and back. Good. Hyacinths are this tall, and it is, I remind you, February 21st. Yeah, sunny days, good friends. Let us pray together. Holy One, you have called us to this Lenten journey. And so we are here. Some of us have walked with you our whole lives and feel that so deeply. Some of us are wildly unprepared, having walked out the door without packing anything. Some of us are somewhere in between. We've started a journey to you and stopped and started and stopped and started. But you call us, wherever we start, wherever we are at the moment, you call us to come again, to be with you, to come again into relationship with you, to come again, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, no matter what our lives look like. You call us to come again to you. Some of us are hesitant. We don't know what that means. Some of us are excited. We know exactly what that means. Some of us are somewhere in between. So we ask in this moment of prayer that along with all of those that we've mentioned before, you be with us as well. Help us to pack for this journey. Help us to bring our hearts, to leave behind the stuff we don't need, to turn our faces and set our feet on a path that leads to you. Help us to remake our lives into your image, that we may be all that you have created us to be, that we may live in love and care and grace, that we may live in service to you and to the world, to live as Jesus lived and taught. Change our lives to look like you. That those who are lonely, those who are ill, those who are struggling may see your face in us. We have prayed for some this morning who face struggles of different kinds. But we carry many more with us in our hearts into this time and space. And so in this moment of grace and silence, in this moment of peace and love, we offer the names of those we carry with their struggles, with their sorrows, with their pains, as we speak them aloud. Each name is a life. Each life is a story that you already know, yet we ask it anyway. Lord, in your love, hear our prayers. For we ask each one in the name of Jesus the Christ as we offer to you the prayer he first taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Our second scripture reading this morning comes from the Old Testament. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 27, and this reading is coming from the Message. Light, space, zest, that's God. So with God on my side, I'm fearless, afraid of no one and nothing. When vandal hordes ride down, ready to eat me alive, those bullies and toughs fall flat on their faces. When besieged, I'm calm as a baby. When all hell breaks loose, I'm collected and cool. I'm asking the Lord for one thing, only one thing, to live with God in God's house my whole life long. I'll contemplate God's beauty. I'll study at God's feet. That's the only quiet, secure place in a noisy world. The perfect getaway, far from the buzz of traffic. God holds me head and shoulders above all who try to pull me down. I'm headed for God's place to offer anthems that will raise the roof. I'm already singing God's songs. I'm making music to God. Listen, God, I'm calling at the top of my lungs. Be good to me. Answer me. When my heart whispered, seek God, my whole being replied, I'm seeking God. Don't hide from me now. You've always been right there for me. Don't turn your back on me now. Don't throw me out. Don't abandon me. You've always kept the door open. My father and mother walked out and left me, but God took me in. Point me down your highway, God. Direct me along a well-lighted street. Show my enemies whose side you're on. Don't throw me to the dogs, those liars who are out to get me, filling the air with their threats. I'm sure now I'll see God's goodness in the exuberant earth. Stay with God. Take heart. Don't quit. I'll say it again. Stay with God.
One thing I seek, says the psalmist. Eugene Peterson translates that, I'm asking God for one thing, only one thing. How focused is that? How many of us can say we only want one thing, and one thing only? Most of us want lots of things. Material things, emotional things, goals, plans, dreams, stuff. The writer of this song wants one thing, God. I think we're too busy or too caught up to figure out that one thing. Too many things to do, too many places to be, too many things demanding our attention and our busyness and our time. Too many things to focus on one thing only. We are torn and scattered people, especially spiritually. We are pulled in way too many directions. Can we even know, in 2016, can we even know what it is like to focus on only one thing? That's tough for me to answer anyway. During my days, I have meetings and phone calls and obligations and prayer and reading and study and sermon preparation and advice giving and drop-in conversations and correspondence and continuing education and weddings and funerals and baptisms to plan. I love it all. There's also connectional work within the district, in the annual conference, and in the jurisdiction, and in the general church. Then there's the hat switch to taking care of a house, paying bills, being the mom of college kids who live in all sorts of separate places and never manage to phone home, and being a wife in no particular order. Then, just for fun, we bought a farm to fix up for our retirement. I put good things on hold because there are so many must-do things on my to-do list that the things that don't have to get done often don't ever get done. If you use Outlook, you know what I'm talking about. I keep changing the due date on things in my Outlook calendar because they just ain't happening the way I'd planned. And I don't like when the due dates turn all red and stare at me accusingly. My to-do list is really long. So it's a question I have to ask along with everyone else. How do we learn to choose God in the midst of our lives, not in spite of our lives? How do we learn to make God the center of everything we do and not just an extra thing to fit in whenever we have a spare minute or two? How do we become mindful of God in the midst of the manic? How do we learn or remember to put God back at the center of everything? I read a story this week about a young ensign who had nearly completed his first overseas tour of duty on his ship. One proud day, he was given the opportunity to display his ability at getting the ship underway. And so with a stream of crisp commands, he had the deck buzzing with men. Soon the ship had left port and was steaming out of the channel. His efficiency was remarkable. In fact, the deck was abuzz with talk that he had set a new record for getting a destroyer underway. He glowed at his accomplishment. He was not at all surprised when another seaman approached him with a message from the captain. He was, however, a bit surprised to find it was a radio message. Yep. It read, "My personal congratulations on completing your underway preparation exercise according to the book. In your haste, however, you have overlooked one of the unwritten rules. Make sure the captain is aboard before getting underway." That'll preach. Make sure the captain is aboard. In our busyness, we need to learn the one thing: that we can live joyfully in God in and through our activities and not in spite of them. That we can live well with the captain on board. Those whose spiritual rhythms are alive and vibrant are those who live daily from a deep, deep center, from a sense of rootedness in God. Scripture and our experience affirm that most of our lives we do feel like torn and scattered people. This is not new. The question we're most hungry to answer, whether we admit it or not, is where is God in all of that? Lent is a time to learn that one thing. A time to try out putting God at the center. A time to focus on God and God alone, on that one thing. Lent is a breather for the soul. It's a time to step back, to rub our eyes, to look clearly at our situation, and to see where we've put God in the whole scheme of our lives. Because you see, God doesn't move. We choose. God is present always, and in every moment, God is present. We choose to ignore God or to embrace God. We choose to turn away from God or to center on God. The saying is actually very, very true. If God is your co-pilot, switch seats. We're not so good at that. We'd like to be at the center of our lives. We'd like our stuff, our plans, our dreams to be the center of our lives, our preferences, our priorities to be the center of our lives. We end up making our busyness the center of our lives. But what is eternally true is that doing that makes for a very hollow core. It leaves a space in our souls that we cannot fill. So how do we change it? Prayer is the first step. Eugene Peterson, whose message version of the Bible we hear each week, speaking about prayer, says this. He says, I know it takes time to develop a life of prayer. Set aside disciplined, deliberate time. It's not accomplished on the run. I know I can't be busy and pray at the same time. I can be active and pray. I can work and pray, but I cannot be busy and pray. I cannot be inwardly rushed, distracted, or dispersed in order to pray. I have to be paying more attention to God than what anyone else is saying to me. More attention to God than my own self. Sometimes we get stuck trying to find God, to seek God. We don't know how to start, where to start. Or we start and then we stop. And we often don't find the wherewithal to start again for whatever reason. Or we stop because we have the vague impression that our prayers, our praying, isn't working, whatever that means. Or we stop because, well, fill in the blank with whatever reason you've used lately. Maybe it feels too hard because we think we don't know what we're doing. And so we don't. We think we have to be trained. We think we have to be an expert. We think we have to be spiritual powerhouses. And so we stop. But let me tell you a secret. There is a secret. It's a pretty open secret, and you can tell it to whoever you want. The object of prayer, the goal of prayer. What do you think that might be? What's the goal of prayer? Well, I'll tell you, and this is the secret since you're not hollering it out. The goal of prayer is to pray. That's all. To be with God. The goal of prayer is not to get something. It's not to feel something. It's not to accomplish something. The goal of prayer is simply to pray, to be present with God, to choose God. Seeking God is enough. I think that takes a lot of pressure off, actually. Learning to pray doesn't mean that you have to achieve something or to be something prior to doing it. It doesn't mean you have to make God do something, as if we could, but that's how most of us pray. Learning to pray doesn't have formulas to follow. Learning to pray has no consequences because there are no mistakes. Learning to pray means learning to focus yourself on God and only God. That may take time. It may seem difficult at first. We are used to multitasking. We're used to ourselves being of primary importance. How do we learn to let that go and seek only God? To be only with God. Sometimes people come to me and say that they don't know how to pray or where to start because all they have is the prayers they dimly remember from childhood or from Sunday school, and those don't seem adequate anymore. Now I lay me down to sleep only goes so far. or they were told they had to pray one way with set words or lofty language or set postures or at set times. It's hard to understand that it can be different than that it doesn't have to be complicated. We make it so complicated. When words fail and they feel like they have no words and they need words to pray, I tell them to begin with the Psalms. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, however your condition at the moment, there is one in there that might express the feelings that you can't express yet. There are 150 to choose from that run the whole gamut of human emotion. So when people say, I need words, I have no words, I say, there's words. Find a psalm. Pray it. Or we talk about other ways of praying. We talk about silence, contemplation as prayer. The great mystics of the ages show us how to be silent with God. You may imagine that's a little tricky for me. I am not a contemplative, but that's okay. We talk about work as prayer. Brother Lawrence is one of my own spiritual superheroes. We talk about art or dance or music as prayer. And we look to artists of all ages. There are so many ways we can learn to focus on God. Each one has one. The trouble, you see, is not God's availability. It's ours. Have you ever seen one of these before? Anyone know what that is? It's a labyrinth. Thank you. It's a prayer tool, actually. It's a metaphor for a spiritual journey. It's not a maze. Mazes are designed to trick and trap, to confuse, to frustrate, to defeat. A labyrinth is actually one continuous path. For those of you who have not experienced them before, it is one continuous path from the entry down here at the bottom to the center. One path only, no dead ends, no wrong turns. One uses the labyrinth as a prayer tool because it mirrors the spiritual journey. It's a metaphor for the Lenten journey. Our spiritual lives are full of twists and turns, taking us one way and then another, sometimes feeling as if we're going backwards when we thought we were going forward. Sometimes you feel like halfway through the labyrinth, you are actually farther from the center. You're actually as far from the center as you were when you started, but you're halfway through. Our spiritual journey can feel like that sometimes. We don't know which way we're going, but there is one goal, one place. It always leads to the center. It always leads to where God lives, even when we feel mixed up, even when we don't know which way we're traveling. Even if you have begun this journey before, it's time to begin again. That's what Lent is about. No matter how many times you've begun the journey, no matter how many times you've laid it aside because other things took your time or your attention, God is waiting. Even if you feel comfortable in your relationship with God, it's always possible to deepen it, make it richer, more alive. If you've never had a relationship for God, it's time to start because God is waiting. This season is the invitation. It is time to return to the center, to find God again, to bring God on board. It's an amazing relationship. It's worth the trip. God is waiting. Amen. We are going to sing a song of devotion and faith. Fairest Lord Jesus. Stand as you're able and comfortable, and we'll sing it together. As you go into this week and into this world, pack whatever you need. But begin this journey or continue this journey to God who is waiting. Go and may the peace of Christ go with you. Amen.
Amen.